Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mastering Midlife, How to Thrive When the World Asks the Most of You. I'm your host, Mark Silverman. Today, I've asked former guest, Ken Blackman, back to the show. Ken talked about dating in our middle age years a couple of episodes back, and his real expertise is on relationship and intimacy and connection, and he leads workshops all around the world. He's currently leading a workshop that's called Powerful Woman, Confident Man, the New Art of Loving Passionately and Building a Resilient, Fulfilling Relationship. Also writing a book of the same name. And I just, being in a long-term relationship, being in my 50s, that tagline totally resonates with me. So Ken, thank you for coming back and sharing your brilliance with us.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. I'm thrilled to pick up the conversation where we left off.
Cool. So when we started talking, we wanted to focus on the demographic. We're talking about people who are in their 40s and 50s, and they come in a couple of varieties. They come in the variety of they've been in a relationship for a while, they have children, or their children are going, or they're empty nesters, but their relationship is in need of some shot in the arm.
Mm-hmm.
Or people like me who are divorced and in second or third relationships, and we really want to make this one work. So those are the kinds of people that we're hoping are in the car listening to us. Give me an opening statement on relationship given those parameters.
Okay, so this is interesting. So, because I've been thinking about this since our last talk, and when you're in your 20s, you're mainly looking for physical attractiveness, status, and am I liked? Those are the main criteria.
Physical attraction, status, and am I liked?
Yeah, is this person a high status person? Is this person going to raise my status? And so in your 20s, there's this dynamic where, all the people that I'm most attracted to, are above my status, and all the people who are attracted to me are below my status, and there's this hierarchical dynamic that takes place. And so that's where everyone is kind of jockeying, right? And then when you hit your 30s and into your mid 40s, you've been living for a while, and you're starting to look at your life as a whole, and you're like, I want someone who is going to, I'm making major life decisions that are going to play out for the rest of my life. And so those are the primary concerns that you have, is what is my, how does this person fit into my major life decisions, right? Economics, where I'm going to live, do I want to have kids? All those things have to be worked out. And so your partner is the primary decisioners are on that.
For those of us who are divorced, I'll add, do I want to bring this person into my already existing children's lives?
Right. Yeah, that's a big one too, right? All of those, right? Does this person, are we politically compatible? Are we, religiously compatible, right? I'm mapping out, no shit, I'm mapping out what my life is going to look like. Then when we get into our 50s, our mid 40s and beyond, 50s and beyond, the primary concern or the primary thing that makes relationships work or not work is companionship. And I've been living now for a while. Having a partner isn't the life and death situation that it was when I was in my 20s. If you're ostracized, that is like death when you're in your 20s. But I've demonstrated my capacity to stay alive and to have a reasonably good life. So now it's about companionship and sharing life experiences together. I can be alone, but I want to be with somebody. I want to share time with someone. And so we realize what we forgot when we were kids. When we were kids, it was about best buddies and friends and companionship. That's what social was. And that comes back into play from about our mid 40s, early 50s on. This is a person who I want to spend time with. This is a person who, when I have a good experience, I want to share that with them. When I'm struggling, I want to be able to share that with someone. I don't want to do it alone. So all of a sudden, all of the most important things, all of the most basic things of human connection that we forgot in our 20s through our mid 40s, we remember and was like, I'm not fucking around now. Like, if I, physical attractiveness, if you have a good sex life with someone, they become attractive to you. They
Mm.
become the most attractive human being on the planet when you're having good sex. So it flips, right? So, um,
That's it. But hold on. That's not one to run over. So what you're
okay.
saying is, if when we're younger, we get attracted to first the physical appearance, the status, and that makes it sexy and interesting. And then later in life, when the sex is good and the intimacy is good and the connection is good, that makes that person sexy.
Yeah.
I
And
experienced that myself, so I love that.
yeah. And that was true. That was true before too. Like, if you are dating an ultra attractive supermodel, uh, and you are in a long-term relationship with him, right? Like, you're actually in a long-term relationship. Very quickly, their looks are not going to matter at all. That when you're fighting and when they're not feeling good, they're ugly. And when
Mm.
they're happy and joyous and you guys are having a great time, they're the most gorgeous creature on the planet. So, so good sex for one thing, intimacy, joy in your life, just having a joyous life, like doing things that bring you joy individually and together. Those kinds of things make you attractive to your partner and make your partner the most attractive human being on the planet to you.
Okay, so I'm in the car now,
Okay.
and I'm actually in conversation with you, so I get to ask this. So
Yeah.
that sounds so wonderful and so beautiful.
Yeah.
I want a best bud. I want a companion. But
Yeah.
now I have the competing humanity of, are they still sexy? Am I still attractive? Is this the last person I'm ever going to be with? Do our politics align?
Hmm.
They're chewing all of a sudden annoys me, and it didn't annoy me before. So
Hmm.
so all this humanity comes in and
Yeah.
messes
Yeah.
with what you're saying is what true happiness is.
Right. Um, so let's pick one of those and we'll talk about it, because you just threw out a whole bunch of different things. And the reason I say that
Welcome
it's
to my mind.
well, you know what's funny? Like, of all the ones you mentioned, the one that I picked up on was all of a sudden their chewing is super annoying, right?
Right.
Okay, so let's be clear here. Um, when the relationship is good, that is a non-problem that you can say without charge and make a request around it.
Right.
Um, when it's just super irritating and like it's the kind of thing that causes fights when it really shouldn't, that
Hmm.
is a symptom of, like, it's never about that thing, right? Like they say, like the arguments about who does the dishes is never ever 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 about the dishes.
Got it.
So it's a fantastic uh, pointer to, you know what, i'm not I'm just going to put words in the mouth of this hypothetical person, like, when you get to that place where, because it's going to be that way in a long-term relationship, all the things you love about the person are going to become exactly the things you hate about them, right? Like, I'm really grounded. I like someone who's super passionate, because I'm cultivating that in myself, but it's not my strong point, right? We have these opposites. And then all those things that made us such good complements are exactly the thing. I think we talked about this on the last call, didn't we?
I'm sure we did.
Maybe. I don't know. But anyway, so if I'm constantly irritated with my partner, it's time to go a level deeper and say, you know what? I'm not happy in this relationship. I'm I'm not fulfilled. Can we talk about it? I don't even know why yet, but you know, I'm going to be I because you're my the person that I wake up to, or the person that I'm maybe you're we're a relatively new relationship, but we've been around the block, so you're the person I'm thinking of spending the rest of my time with. I, I'm not happy, and I just starting there, not even knowing what you're going to say. Like, don't if you don't. rehearse or practice, but you just start there with an open-ended conversation and see where it leads. Usually there is a like the thing that's the real problem. And if you can get to that, then things can shift.
So it always comes down to that sweaty palm conversation in
I,
business, in friendship,
yeah,
and in intimate relationships. If you are capable of having those sweaty palm conversations, you stand a better chance of a loving, intimate relationship.
yeah. I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's, if two people want to be together, there isn't anything that can't be talked through. Like I've seen major issues get resolved. Now, that conversation may lead to clarity where you realize, you know what, this is great. There's a lot that's good about this relationship, but I have come to realize I want something different. And that does happen. But those kinds of breakups, if it comes to that, those kinds of breakups are amicable and they're mutual. People realize, you know what, this was good for what it was, and we got a chance. We had to go all the way in order to test it, to see what it was going to be and see if it was going to be good. We did the research, we did the due diligence. We've come to get clear on what's good about this and how the ways in which it doesn't fit what it is that we actually want, and we can bring it to a close.
Mm.
But there isn't anything that can't be talked about. That's my point. And most of the time, the deal breaker stuff, if you talk through it, you can get closer and you figure that shit out. You figure it out because you trust that we want the connection. We want the connection more than we want to be alone, right?
It's interesting because I went through this very, very recently with my long-term relationship,
Okay.
where I made the decision I didn't like what was, what we created in the last couple of years. I didn't like what was showing up. And the value was there that I'm open to something new. And
Mm-hmm.
we had to smash what was and
Mm-hmm.
both make the decision and the choice that the value is in creating something new and creating a shared vision. That sweaty conversation was a week of hell.
Dude, you are talking my language. I couldn't have said it better. Like you have to at any like age stage, if you're in a long-term relationship, the one thing you know is it's going to change. People in the relationship are going to change. It's going to evolve. Either people's behavior is going to change or people's what people want is going to change, or who they are as human beings is going to change. And you have to be willing to let whatever it was die. Let it just like get rid of it, start from square one, start from scratch, and build, construct, co-create together what this relationship is actually going to be.
What was interesting for me in that conversation was I could figure out how to acquiesce and keep the status quo and just kind of dull myself and dull the relationship and keep going as if nothing's going on. And I know how to cut and run. I know how to say, I don't want this. I'm going to get an apartment. I'm starting fresh. I'm starting new. Let's end this thing. I didn't know how to stay in the ambiguity and the the breakdown to wait for the value. Right. And to look at myself to see where do I need to shift so that my partner will shift. And then, so this is very real for me. And the degree to which it was painful and messy and really icky to feel is the degree to how miraculous it feels on the other side when we both made the decision and the choice to say, we value this. We'll never find this.
Right.
So that was, it's been really fun. Now, excuse me, wrong word. It's been really fulfilling.
Yes. And I want to point to something you said. I love that you said, I knew how to acquiesce. I knew how to run, but I didn't know how to do this thing. And yet you did it brilliantly. I really want your audience to get that when we're doing this, it feels like I don't know how to do this. I'm just going to stick it out and see what happens. And so that feeling, that feeling is not just, that feeling is kind of intrinsic to the whole process. Like, this is out of my range. I don't know how to do this. That's when you know you're getting into territory where something new can arise.
And this is
So,
where someone like you
bravo.
comes in. This is where
Oh yeah,
we spend a lot of money on getting our businesses going. We spend money on personal trainers so we can look good, right? We'll even spend money on nutritionists. We'll spend money on a car. But how much
yeah.
money, how much resources, how much will we spend to bring in a referee, to bring in a good coach or a therapist to help us work through those things?
Oh man.
Someone like you is worth their weight in gold to help someone get to the my truth, your truth, what's the truth.
Yeah. I just recently I've been working with this couple, and I've been working with them for long enough that we've gotten to see several cycles of the impasse, is unresolvable, but they have to search deep within to say, what do I really want with this person? And there's been times when they separated so that they could have a breather and really feel into, I can see all the things I love about this person. I can see all the things that where this is not in alignment with my trajectory of how I want my life to go. And there's all these things that I hate about how this is going. And dig deep to see if they really want the nugget, the juice, the the core of the connection that they have. And I was willing to support them to go in either direction. I had to be willing to support each of them equally in deciding that they wanted to make a go of it and get behind them to have that be fantastically successful, or have either one of them decide this is not what I want, and get behind them to have their breakup be
Mm.
fantastically successful, and be willing to trust them the way they're going to need to trust each other enough to make it over that hump. And multiple times they've gotten to that impasse where, okay, we're either out of here or we're going to the next level of commitment, depth, intimacy, the next level of what we need to bring to the table in order to have what we know this can be. And it's been just fantastic to watch the whole process, to facilitate really the whole process. Because yeah, I can see what they can't, so I can give them reality on what's possible, but then they have to choose it, right?
Yeah, and to have someone hold space for you I think is incredible. And then
Yeah.
also to point out that this is a choice. So
Yeah.
for me, what I'm learning is long-term relationship is a choice every day. The feeling may
Every day.
not be there, the thoughts may not be there, and then to choose. And it's the same thing with career, it's the same thing with work, it's the same thing with almost everything. But relationship gets so messy because it's so yeah, what's the word? It's subjective, and to
Mm-hmm.
choose every day is you said it. The if people choose to stay together, if people choose that connection, they can work
Mm-hmm.
through anything. I
Yeah.
think that's a highlighter moment for me in this conversation.
Mm. And the the interesting irony is that often all that thrash, all that friction, all that like one foot in, the other one foot out, is confronting the depth of what it feels like to be intimately connected with someone. And that the very thing that we know we're hungry for, the very thing that we like when we talk about long-term relationships, one of the things that you asked me offline was, how do I define relationship? What does that word even mean, right? And to me, it's two people who have decided that they like what it feels like to be connected to each other, and they make a mutual decision to have that be an ongoing thing. And so this thing we hunger for, we're dying for it. And as bad as it looks when we look out onto the landscape and see all this wreckage of like, who out there represents, is even a model for us of what it's supposed to look like, right? Like there's so much, there's so little to see out there as an example of what it's supposed to look like, but we still walk around with this internal hunger because it's built into our psyches that we are human, we are creatures of connection, and so we hope and pray that that's what we're going to have. And then when we get it, this is the point that I want to make with all of that, which is the moment we get it and the intensity of it is so just like, oh, it's like more human connection is more intense than we realize. And it's different from what we expect. And it could be actually far more profound than we realize. And all those things make it as much of a make us as much of a flight risk, right? Because
Mm.
it's just this profoundly intimate experience to be connected to someone. And so if you can get to the depths of that, oh, I want to speak, since having said all that, can I just keep going? I
I
want to speak to the
Go for
long-term couples who have been together for a while. You mentioned this earlier in this call. Uh, they've been together for a while and it's gotten flat, or it's gotten like tepid, or there's just no spark or something, right? Or it's just not, like, they're going through the motions. um there's probably uh they're standing in a landmine of topics that they've decided are too uncomfortable to talk about. Like this landmine of, they've gotten their way of tiptoeing through the terrain so that nothing gets shaken up. Like they've succeeded in having it be smooth, but they're if they look around at all the things they don't talk about, they've just they've gotten into the motions. If they look around, they're going to see they're standing in a landmine of like all these things that they've decided it's too risky or too dangerous to go there. They
I'll
have
make
to
it
go
real.
there.
So in my relationship, I'm in a relationship with someone who's, a very conservative Republican, very different worldview than me, where I'm a bleeding heart liberal, kumbaya kind of guy, and we just don't even live in the same world, do not see the same thing at all when we look at something, and we can't talk about it. I go on the attack mode, right? Me, the Zen master here, go, as soon as you mention something about our president, I'll go in attack mode. And I've had to really use that as something to work on. But that started the wedge in our
Mm.
relationship because we could not talk about that subject.
Mm. Is that still true to this day, or did things get like? And either answer is fine, but I'm just curious. Like, is that still? Did you just decide this is an arena where we have agreed to disagree? We don't actually need to talk about it because we're just going to disagree. We're not going to see eye to eye, and it doesn't affect the reason why we're together. Is that how it is, or did
Not
you work
yet.
through?
Not yet. It is. It is. I did. I was able to tease for the first time last night and say, when we were saying we were going to talk about, we are going to try and do things that each other likes. And I said, I am not sitting and watching Tucker Carlson with you ever. And that was a joke. There was no charge in it. It was just funny. And that
Yeah.
was the first time ever to be able to have that kind of conversation. But what we're working on is building trust in all the other areas, digging ourselves out of that landmine hole that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm doing all the work on myself because I know that I am violently volatile when it comes to
Mm,
these things because they scare me. And I've come a
yes.
long way. I've come a long way with really loving people for who they are, what they see, and knowing that I am not in the same world as anybody else, my partner, my children, anybody in the world, and to let them have their experience of the world. And to know that I'm not right. But I've dug deep for that, not only for this relationship, but just for peace of mind in my world and to love the people that I come in contact with. But
Mm,
I don't want to. I wanted to make it personal and I wanted to make it real for you to
yeah.
keep
Yeah.
on your point that
Yeah. Yeah.
they're in this landmine and there are subjects that they can't talk about, whether it's in-laws, whether it's how they raise their children, whether it's money, whether it's politics.
Right. So if you have too many of those, like there can be a relationship can withstand one or a few don't ask, don't tell type of topics. And, I said this before and I stand behind it, that I haven't, I think any topic can be talked about. There will be times when if you wanted to, you could bring someone like me in, or someone who knows how to deal with this, and work through the dynamic that arises between you as a result of your disagreement, because that's really what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So those things can be worked through. But if you've gotten to a place where you have so many of those, you've been so successful, this is where the acquiescence comes in, which you're not doing anymore, and that was necessary. That was vitally critical for the health of your relationship.
Right.
If you've got so many of those, I'm going to say something controversial.
Oh, thank God.
If you're walking on eggshells, you're being manipulative.
No kidding. Yes.
So if you've gotten to where there's so many things that you've simply decided not to talk about, you're missing the richness of the relationship. Like the reason we're brought together is to feel the intensity of intimacy. And if you've avoided that, there's probably things that you need to talk about. And then there's probably experiences that you guys need to have. Like maybe it's just, y'all need to get out and have some fun, right? Like sometimes you're just in a rut in your lives. There's nothing wrong. You don't have any disagreements. You just need to get out and go have some fun, right? You've gotten stale just in your lives in general, right? It's not a relationship problem, right?
Definitely. Let's talk about low-hanging fruit for a sec.
Okay.
One of the things that I talk about with all of my clients now, and I've learned that I didn't even know was important, I thought it was just a cliche, is the love languages. That seems to be low-hanging fruit to start to actually feel something in a relationship. What's your relationship
Yeah.
with that?
Oh, I totally agree. There's some basic things. Your love languages is a fantastic tool. I've had so many couples say, this alone helped me figure out, like, this is, now my partner knows how to communicate to me their love in a way that just lands with me so well. I know how to communicate my love to them in a way that lands with them so well. There's another one called erotic blueprint, erotic blueprint. If you want to talk about, this is similar to the concept of love languages, but it's in the bedroom, right? There's some basic, there's this woman, Jaya, who's amazing. And she's come up with these, like, she's noticed that there are ways, like flavors of things in the bedroom that kind of aggregate together into different personality types in the bedroom. And I've had couples say, this was super useful for me to understand kind of my person. It's like a personality type for what you like in sex. What kind of love life
The
you like. So
sexual
there's like,
Enneagram. I love it. Everybody's leaning forward now.
yeah.
Tell us more.
Well, I don't know a lot about it. And so I'm going to actually recommend, but for some couples, for some people, I should say, sex is all about the spiritual communion of the connection that happens. For other people, there's a real physicality to it that's important. Like just physical touch and affection is super important. For others, there's like an eroticism, and like we talk about kink, but kink is really just a certain personality type of a certain flavor of eroticism, of like role playing and power play and all this stuff. And she describes this way better than I do. I highly recommend it, because
So what's her name so we can put it in the show notes?
Jaya, but I would look up erotic blueprint. That's the thing that you want to look for.
All right, we'll find that and put that in the show notes.
Great. And there's a few other just like basic tools that are out there that people can use. For me, I'll talk about mine, which is so often I work with these really powerful women who, like, they're not, this couple is not going to fit the old model. Like, he's the provider, he's the protector, she's like fragile and loving and nurturing, and she's the homemaker, and he's the head of the household, and he's reasonable, and that's why he's a decision maker, and she's moody and emotional, but he like that old like Ward and June Cleaver model doesn't fit a lot of people. So I get these couples who she's a powerhouse. She's self-assured in a way that it's not he sometimes she needs protection, sometimes she needs to be provided for, but mostly that's not going to be his role. So they love each other, but they don't understand they need a model for how their relationship is going to work because it isn't the old model. And so I help them, and mainly I help him in terms of his confidence, his intuition. If he's just wants to be told what to do, I wake up an intuitive side of him that all of a sudden knows what to do, and it seems like he's got friggin' ESP with her. And her power, her sense of pleasure, like these are the new ingredients of this kind of relationship that that does well. So I call that
Powerful Woman, Confident Man, the name of your book and your workshop. And
yep,
I know I meet tons of incredibly powerful women who've
yeah,
worked through being, a dude in a woman's
right,
body and really are powerful women. And
yeah,
finding men who are confident enough to
yeah.
allow them to be powerful and still be a man in the relationship is a fascinating thing to watch. And your work is very, very important.
Oh, so very well stated. I'm gonna clip that because you just stated that really well. You
I,
get it, right? Like,
I meet them all the time. So tell me about your workshop that's coming up.
okay, so I mostly up till now I've done a ton of workshops, but mostly I've been working with couples one on one, right? Like I do coaching with couples, and I'm taking everything that I've learned over the last 18 years and really putting it into a structure where we talk about the role of passion, we talk about boundaries, we talk about these things I just mentioned: power, pleasure, intuition, confidence, their connection, what it takes to have a long-term relationship, all these different components of what I see makes an epic, like long-lasting life partnership. I'm going to teach it to 10 couples to start with, over an 8-week period. And I'm super excited about it. I'm launching in early March. If you have any people who are interested, contact me at ken@kenblackman.com. I'm super excited about this. I think this is going to be fantastic. And this first group is going to be special because I'm going to be very much in there, hands-on with them to make sure that everyone gets realigned and co-creates a relationship that's going to be fantastic.
Good question about that. So is this very male female centric, man and a woman, or can same sex couples benefit from it? Because I know a lot of the people in your line of work a lot with male female polarity, and the same sex couples feel really excluded and actually shamed in a lot of those workshops. So it's not for them. How about your workshop?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. For now, this workshop is for the traditional, conventional hetero couple. I do work with a lot of other different kinds of combinations in my personal work. Like I've worked with lesbian couples. I've worked with triads. I love working with couples who are experimenting with open relationships. Like that's my jam. Um, but I have a certain, it's funny, I made this decision when I was writing this book, because halfway through writing the book, I knew that it wasn't going to be my final statement. And it became all the more important to take this statement and get it out into the world. But it is a solution it's a particular solution to a particular problem that I see in the world. And so that's what this is.
I got it, but I just like to, I think those workshops are perfect for men and women. I think men and women really need a place to go. Uh,
Yeah,
there are things popping up for same-sex relationships, occasionally
absolutely.
there, and but it's definitely a different dynamic. So
Yeah.
it's just
And
something to keep aware of.
And I've gotten a lot of gay and lesbian couples saying they get a lot from what I'm teaching. So, that's great as well. Like once the book comes out, there's already so much that I've talked about that resonates with you, and so it's great.
Uh, Great. Thank you, Ken. This was so enlightening. Again, you said we can find you at kenblackman.com. We'll put that in the show notes. The workshop's first of many coming up in March, which is about when this podcast will come up. I really appreciate you spending time with us. And to everybody else, thank you for spending time with Mastering Midlife. If you like the podcast, please share it. Please like it. Please comment. It makes a big difference. And I love you. Have a great rest of the day.